This exchange is one of the crazier things that I have seen. So the NPR CEO, as we've covered in the past, she went to Capitol Hill and she was grilled on her anti-conservative bias. And Brandon Gill asked her a few questions that she clearly wasn't prepared for. And I don't know how you're not more prepared for a hearing like this. You would think that someone on her PR team would have said, hey, maybe we should go back and take a look at some of your old tweets and, look at the more concerning ones and maybe have some good answers if they bring them up. She didn't whatsoever. She has tweeted some horrific things about white people, about slavery, about reparations, and she is now saying, well, my positions have evolved. Just wait till you hear it, and then she's got caught lying several times as well. Let's get right into it, but before we do, my name is Clayton Kearns from TrendingPolitics.com. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and like this video. And if you believe that NPR should be defunded for their anti-conservative bias, then please comment below, defund NPR, because there is no reason that we, the taxpayers, should be funding this type of insane propaganda. Let's get right into it.
Ms. Marr, I want to start with you. Just generally, would you say you generally agree or disagree with the following statement? The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles?
I would not say I agree with that, sir.
You're not. That's good to hear. It's interesting because a lot of your thinking, as expressed by your public statements, is deeply infused with economic and cultural Marxism. Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
She says half decade, okay, to make it sound like it's more time. Half decade is 5 years. So somehow 5 years ago, she was saying that America is addicted to white supremacy. But just 5 years later, she doesn't hold any of those beliefs anymore. She's evolved in her thinking. How do you go from saying that America is addicted to white supremacy to just not thinking that that's the case anymore? Insane.
Don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter.
So he says, do you believe XYZ about white supremacy? She's like, I don't believe that at all. He says, you tweeted about it. And then he says, you talked about it from this book. She's like, I've never read this book. He says, you tweeted about how you took a whole day off to read the book. This is only a minute in, okay? This gets crazier for her. But I don't understand how you can go into this hearing not prepared for any of this. This is absolute insanity.
January of 2020.
I apologize, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I'd no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't? You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. How white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I've never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't.
That's insane. He says, do you think white people should pay reparations? No, I've never said that. Yes, you did. You tweeted it. This is the most insane thing I've seen.
I believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone
Seems
to pay
to be what you're
reparations, sir.
suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe
to the
it's
full extent of the
morally
law.
wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
Yes.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being
You
illegal.
tweeted, "It's hard to be mad about protests," in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my
You
time at
tweeted
NPR.
that you read that book.
So he asked a very specific question. Do you believe that this is an appropriate use of taxpayer-funded dollars in defense of looting? And she goes, I know nothing about that book. I can't believe, this is one of the more brutal watches that I've seen in a while. And I cannot believe they sent her to Capitol Hill this unprepared. I guess I can. But when your network here is kind of on the line, I don't think you did yourselves any favors by keeping your public funding. This is crazy.
But
I don't believe that I did read that book, sir.
do you think that a few years ago, NPR educated America about, quote, the whole community of genderqueer dinosaur enthusiasts? Do you think that that's an appropriate use of tax dollars?
I was not at NPR at the time, sir.
That's not the question, though. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of our tax dollars?
I think our tax dollars that we use are to be able to provide a wide range of
So I'll take
perspectives.
that as a yes. You do believe that that's appropriate. Your health advisor at
And she didn't say no. She didn't say no. He straight up said this obscure title, this craziness. Do you believe that this is an appropriate use of tax dollars? And she completely evades the question.
NPR also stated in an interview that, quote, fear of fatness is more harmful than actual fat. Would you like to explain how fear of fatness is more harmful than actual fat? That's an editorial at NPR.
I am not familiar with the editorial, and I don't believe that was published during my time here.
It's called Diet Culture is Everywhere. Here's how to fight it. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I think any reporting on health is an appropriate use of
You've
taxpayer
spent-
dollars, yes.
And you think that editorializing that fat is not unhealthy is appropriate?
I don't know what that article is, sir, and I'm not familiar with it, so I
This
couldn't
is
say.
fake news. Do you think that basic accommodations like doorways or seat belts represent, quote, latent fat phobia?
I don't have an opinion.
It's
on that,
also
sir.
from NPR. Do you think civility?
And by the way, do you see her little gaslighting technique here? So anytime he brings up something that NPR is publishing that is especially left-wing, she doesn't say she doesn't agree with it. What she says is, that was published before my time at NPR. She's hedging her bets. She's trying to let herself off the hook by saying, hey, you can't blame me for publishing that. She agrees with it, but she absolves herself of all blame by saying, hey, I wasn't around when that was published. Be aware of these gaslighting techniques.
Is racist?
No, sir.
No. Your outlet ran a racist?
No, sir.
Wait, sorry, let me go back a second.
Latent fat phobia.
I don't have an opinion.
It's
on that,
also
sir.
from NPR. Do you think civility is racist?
No, sir.
No. Your outlet ran an article entitled, quote, When Civility is Used as a Cudgel Against People of Color. That was on All Things Considered. Would you like to explain?
I'm not on the editorial side, sir. I'm not familiar with that story.
You talk about how NPR is news. This is editorialization, and I'll read it. For many people of color in the United States, civility isn't so much social lubricant as it is a vehicle for containing them, preventing social mobility, and preserving the status quo. This is garbage. I'll spend all of my time doing everything I can to ensure you guys never get another dollar of taxpayer funding. This is complete garbage. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. I now recognize.
That was absolutely amazing. Kudos to Brandon Gill for calling her out and for really exposing the absolute madness that we, the people, are paying for. It's one thing if you are a left-wing network and you're getting all of your funding and all that from viewership and donations, but when we, the taxpayer, are paying for this type of crazy propaganda, it's unacceptable. absolutely unacceptable. So if you support NPR being completely defunded, then comment below, defund NPR. I mean, again, I would say that I can't believe it, but if you've paid any attention at all in the last few years as to what's been going on in our country, this is absolutely believable, and we need to put an end to this. So let's all support our congressmen and get this thing defunded, because as we're sitting here trying to cut through waste, fraud, and abuse, networks like this and networks like PBS that are indoctrinating children and indoctrinating the United States public, we cannot give another dime. So if you agree, let me know in the comments. If you're still watching and you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe and like the video, and I'll be talking to you tomorrow.